Welcome to the Four Borders podcast.
So, Dave, it snows a lot in Michigan, obviously, and we can't play golf year round, unfortunately. Would have done it today. But instead, we pay attention to football and fantasy football. That's why we're here. Dave, tonight, it's Monday, December 4th, about 10:26 p.m. Let's talk about the top four takeaways from the Week 13 games in the NFL. You want to talk about some of those? You want to start with the first one? You got a takeaway that you want to tell me about?
Yeah, the Chiefs lose to the Packers. That's kind of surprising, like any given Sunday type of outcome. Mahomes has looked less than stellar, and Jordan Love is dealing out there. So the Chiefs, they're mortal. I can't believe they lost that game, and that was despite the refs' best efforts to keep them in it, especially with that last-minute dubious call of a late hit out of bounds when Mahomes clearly was still in bounds, trying to get to that first down marker, and he got blown up right on the sidelines, and they threw a flag. Okay, I mean, I just felt like that's something that Mahomes is gonna get that call almost every time, and I'm just like we said months ago, I'm just a little over the whole Patrick Mahomes thing right now. I don't like how many calls he gets. He clearly gets special treatment from refs, and it's just a little aggravating to see. So I like that they got knocked down a peg or two with that loss.
Yeah, it's super frustrating to see a ref determine the outcome of a game. It's also frustrating to see a team become really dominant because then they go from being the hunter to the hunted, and it's really difficult to stay grounded at that point. And the refs they decided the game. There was the penalty on the Packers on that like a minute to go, and Mahomes throws the ball down the field, and there's clear pass interference. And so it was quite strange because yeah, the Chiefs they always get the calls. They get the lack of calls, like holding on our boy Jawan Taylor. But at the same time, they totally got rigged out of that call last night, that pass interference.
I think that was a makeup call. I think maybe the refs realized, like, hey, we should not have thrown the flag on that late hit. And so they didn't give him the pass interference. But, in real time, it looked like a great breakup, a great pass breakup. But then, watch it again in slow mo. He was all over him. So the refs didn't throw the flag there. And then maybe on the Hail Mary, they could have thrown a flag, but you can't do it in that situation. But I still feel like the refs give the Chiefs lots of chances.
They give them a ton of chances, and then you shouldn't have makeup car calls or gimme calls or anything like that. I think that even further muddies like the integrity of the game. Like if you miss a call, then you miss a call. People are going to be pissed at you, but don't make people think that you're incompetent.
I don't know if people think that a ref's incompetent. It does
I
make it
do.
seem
I
like
do.
it
If
does
if
make
you
it
miss
seem
those
like
calls right there, they honestly look incompetent. If that call you said in real time, you weren't sure if you saw something, right when it happened, I was like, "Oh my god." Like, there's a ton of pass interference. He's draped
that
all over him.
like we talked about before, it'd be nice if you could review a pass interference and throw a challenge on a judgment call. That'd be a game changer.
Yeah, it sure would. I and they stopped the game for so many other reasons. Yeah, maybe they can consider doing that as well. I totally agree because a call like that can certainly and it did determine the outcome of games. So here's my thing is if you've got the referees down in the field, well, I mean, how many referees do you have maybe looking from like an overhead view? And why is there like a cap on how many referees you have? I think they have like 6 referees or something. Make it 10 or something. Make it enough so you're not missing these blatant calls because it's so obvious. It's a billion-dollar industry, multi-billion-dollar industry, and you can't afford a couple more guys. Sure, it's going to cost you another $40,000 in salaries per game. Okay, give me a fucking break. That's like $25 million $25 million over the course of a season to make the game better.
I agree that the NFL has enough resources where if they really wanted to solve this problem, they could. And maybe there's a reason they don't seem interested in it. Maybe they like the controversy of poor calls here and there. I think the product is still good. People are still consuming the product. People still like want to watch NFL games at like record pace. So maybe they don't have to be perfect, but I think that's something that could happen in the future is fans will dictate the calls through text messaging to the 800 number. They'll say what the call should have been. And then maybe depending on number of votes, the refs will throw a flag for certain things, kind of like American Idol style.
Well, Dave, I don't know what you do. Let's move on to number three. Number three, I've got the Patriots losing 6-0. They didn't score a single point. The Chargers kicked 2 field goals and they got 6 points. A simple touchdown by the Patriots would have done it, but no, they couldn't even do that. Bailey Zappi looked like a turd as well. And what do you do? I mean, is it that hard to draft and find a good quarterback? Apparently it is.
Apparently it is, and actually what I heard on a podcast was, they've thought about expanding the league, to beyond 32 teams, but, one of the reasons they're not gonna do it or they can't do it is there really just is a huge shortage of quality quarterbacks that are starter worthy in the NFL. So if you expand it to, like, 34 teams or 36 teams or whatever the number is, you're gonna have a lot of teams with mediocre quarterbacks out there, and a mediocre quarterback's gonna result in mediocre offense and not a quality product that people are going to want to watch. So I think 32 is a good number. There's not even 32 startable good quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Bailey Zappi has shown that he's not the guy. He couldn't get any points done. I feel like the Chargers, in a way, like yeah, they won that game technically, but did they really win? I feel like Herbert's season has been a disaster. Eckler is a disaster. We're gonna have a video soon where we talk about the 4 biggest disasters, the top 4 biggest disasters of the season, and I think Eckler and Herbert are gonna be up there on that list because those guys are they're killing lots of teams. They're killing me right now. To only put up 6 points against the Patriots and their stat lines was they're losing a lot of fantasy football matchups for their fantasy managers.
Well, and something else that I might tell you is that the Patriots defense is really, really good. Now, think about this. The Lions played the Chargers and the Lions won 41-38. The Chargers scored 5 straight possessions, touchdowns, and they could only put up 2 field goals against the Patriots. It might tell you that the Lions defense isn't that good, of course, but then it also tells you that the Patriots defense is looking great. They also had 2 key injuries earlier this season, and for them to be playing this well, really impressive. So kudos. Obviously, it's not because of Matt Patricia, who's taking up space and writing on his laminated play card with a pencil. It's not Patricia who's doing that. So that's pretty impressive to see the defense be that good, because it's really a shame the team loses games and then you just kind of think, oh, the team sucks. But they're putting up really good performances. So, it would be frustrating.
So, question for you: do you think the Patriots see any like moral victory in only losing 6-0, only giving up 6 points? You think that's something the defense can say, "Hey, we had a great game," but then the team in general is like, "Yeah, well, at least we didn't give up more than that, but they didn't score any points." So, is Belichick happy with losing 0-6?
I think the defense has a sense of pride because they're that good and they gave up just so few points. And I would think that they're thinking to themselves that we're going to get a top pick in the draft next year and it's going to be a quarterback. And then our offense is going to be better. And they might even think, hey, look what's happening down in Houston with CJ Stroud. If we just have that guy slinging passes, then we could be 7-5 or 8-4 next year. And so they're probably saying to themselves, yeah, every one of these games that we win, I'm proud. Like our defense kicks ass. Let's go get our QB and let's go win some games.
So I wonder if this could be like a low key tanking, like legitimate strategy where they're not too concerned about losing because they do own their first round pick. They could get another quarterback. Obviously, they're not happy with Zappi.
Right. Think about the start of the season when you're talking about, okay, the Patriots are going in and Mac Jones, this, that, and the other. And now week 13, we're talking about they're not happy with Zappi. That's couldn't be scripted any poorer for this franchise, which boo hoo, nobody really cares. Everybody's actually super happy that you
Yeah.
guys suck right now. So take it on the chin, lose your games, get a top pick quarterback selection in the NFL draft, and then be respectable again, or try to be at least.
Did you see what Jabril Peppers said to Saquon Barkley last week when the Giants beat the Patriots?
I didn't know.
They met after the game on the field, and Jabril Peppers didn't realize that Saquon Barkley was mic'd up, and the first thing that Peppers said to Barkley was, "You lucky we ass." And so they aired that, and Peppers had to come on and say, "Look, I'm I'm sorry I said that. I shouldn't have said it. I think we do have a great core of guys. We're obviously not playing very well right now, but normally somebody will tell you, hey, I'm mic'd up. He didn't get to say it in time. But also, if you don't know someone's mic'd up, somebody there at NFL Network knows, like, okay, well, this guy said this. Maybe we shouldn't air that. So
Yeah.
Peppers was kind of like, I question why they would actually like put that on the air, put me on blast like that. But he said, I'm not going to hide from what I said. I said it. I shouldn't have said it, but we're going to get better. We do have a draft pick that's going to be great. So, maybe next year we'll bounce back. But I thought that was pretty funny to, catch like what one of the players is actually thinking. And he's right. The Patriots are not good. The Giants are lucky that they got that win. They only got that win because the Patriots are not having a good season whatsoever. And
No.
Patriots fans out there, welcome to what like 99% of all other fan bases have to deal with is mediocrity.
Well, it's
It
obviously not
stinks, doesn't it?
99%, Dave. It's probably more like 87, 88%, but you're exactly right. Think about what the Lions fans have had to go through. Now, of course, once you get that winning flavor in your mouth, a taste of honey is worse than none at all, as the great Motown song goes. And you just expect it, and then you want more, and you get hooked and hooked and hooked, and you're like a fiend, you're fiending for, and you want those wins. I'm a Detroit Pistons fan, right? So they've lost 17 in a row. I'm not fiending. I'm just, looking at my fantasy team in first place. Dave, I digress. You want to talk about number two? What's number two on the list you got here?
Number 2 takeaway from week 13 is the 49ers thumping the Philadelphia Eagles. What a game for the 49ers fans right now. Brock Purdy throws 4 touchdown passes. Deebo Samuel had at least a couple touchdowns. McCaffrey had one. Ayuk had one. 42-19. So the Eagles, they just got stopped. And kind of a surprising outcome. The Eagles should be a contender right now, and they didn't have an answer for the 49ers. Did you watch the game?
I did, and I think the Eagles still are definitely contenders. I think sometimes you go in with a plan and then you get punched in the mouth, and you don't have a plan at that point. You got to regroup, and I think that's what happened to him. Now Purdy has been on fire. When he was blitzed by the Eagles yesterday, just when he was blitzed alone, he was 10 for 10. He had 213 yards, 3 TDs, and a perfect 158.3 passer rating. I don't know how they came up with that number for the perfect number, but Purdy was on fire. And Deebo, you said Deebo had some touchdowns. Pretty sure he had 3 of them because he dragged one guy into the end zone, and then he slipped away for another one, and then he just outran another guy for the other one. And he was
one
electric.
rushing touchdown, 2 receiving touchdowns, I think for Samuel.
Yeah,
Let
but
me do the math on that. That's 3 touchdowns.
That's three. And he was electric. He was just flying all over the place. And yeah, they looked good. I mean, they looked really good. Now the Eagles got beat. Of course they did. But I still put them up there in the top 4 of the league. One of the best 4 teams, I'd say.
What about this? Did you see the interaction between Dre Greenlaw tackles Devontae Smith right on the sideline, kind of picks him up, slams him a little bit, nothing like too crazy. And that resulted in a sideline scuffle. And Eagles head of security, Dom
Big Dom.
DeSandro. Yeah,
Big Dom.
he is a security guard, right? I think he kind of could sense like a fight was brewing. So he just kind of like gently created separation, placed his hand on Dre Greenlaw's shoulder pads and just kind of like gently like moved him, right? I don't think it was anything out of line for what a security guard would do to like slow down a potential brawl on the sidelines, right? Greenlaw didn't like that. So he said, "Hey man, smell my fingers." And he reached his hand out. And I'm not going to say his name, but my old college roommate who may be watching this used to do a thing where he would just drag his fingers across people's upper lips. And we'd be like, why are you doing that, man? It would really make people uncomfortable. Anyway, I feel like Dre Greenlaw took a page out of his book and totally swiped his fingers under Dom's nose. And so Dre Greenlaw got ejected. But then they eject Dom too. It's like, well, he's the security guard. Like he didn't instigate anything and now he's getting ejected. So if there was one thing that the Eagles fans are going to look back and say, hey, we like that. They like that that Dom stood up for his players and his team and he got ejected. He got a standing ovation. Other than that, not many things went well for the Eagles that night.
Yeah, I'd say The speaking of things not going well, the Niners, they completely overwhelmed the Phillies' sturdy O line. This is from David Lombardi. Shout out to him on Twitter. They had 46 pressures, 46. Bosa having 8, Chase Young having 7, Eric Armstead 6, Javon Kinlaw 5, Randy Gregory 5, Clelin Farrell 4, Javon Hargrave 4, and Kalia Davis 2. That's a lot of pressure, and they really try to keep Hurts in the pocket. They didn't want him to be able to scramble, and he didn't. And so he did have some open throws out to AJ Brown, but it just wasn't enough. It was too much, too good defense by the 49ers and too good offense by the 49ers as well.
Should we move on to the number one observation of the week for week 13?
Dave, I think I'm smelling what you're cooking. Let's go to number one. That one being okay. So honestly, the Niners beating the Eagles probably should have been number one. But I'm a homer. Of course, it's the Lions beating the Saints and going to 9-3.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with being a homer. And so, of course, I'm going to give a shout out, put them number one in the charts when they probably should be number 3, number 4, whatever. It doesn't matter. We can talk about Sam Laporta, who actually could be the number one takeaway from this weekend. What he's doing right now is completely insane. He's on pace to break Mike Ditka's passing yard for a tight end rookie record. And then he's on to a pace to be, I believe it's Keith Jackson, his receptions as a rookie, his rookie year. So Jackson's at 81. Laporta's at 64 right now. Now, granted, this was an 88 when Jackson got there. That was a 16-game schedule. And then Laporta is on a 17-game schedule. Ditka had 1,100 receiving yards as a tight end, and that was in 61. And right now we're looking at Laporta is at 679, so he needs about 500 more to get there. So it's pretty incredible what Sam Laporta is doing. He had another touchdown catch yesterday, and the Lions got off to a really quick start. They were up 20-0. It was, I think, the third time in the last 23 years that a team has gotten up 21-0 in such a quick span of time. So it's really cool. It's just fun to be able to sit back and watch and be like, okay, well, I can at least enjoy this game until the third or the fourth quarter when they might blow it and lose the game. So it was fun.
Yeah, the Lions fan PTSD was kicking in because I was thinking to myself, how are they going to find a way to blow this lead? And they almost did. The Saints did make it competitive towards the end. They could have come back, and the Lions could have lost that game. If they had choked away that game, that would have been same old Lions, but they found a way to pull out the win. So that's got to be pretty promising for them, right?
Yeah, it sure does. It really does speak to what you're saying. Instead of the same old Lions, it's brand new Lions. And ever since the curse was lifted last year, then you know that they're not going to be jinxed by some terrible call, or at least you have faith that that's not going to happen. And it really hasn't happened too much this year, knock on wood. So that was pretty exciting to see. Jameson Williams had a touchdown. Montgomery was running okay. Gibbs had a pretty good 36-yard gain in the first, and he was doing pretty well. The D was still suspect. That is obviously how the Saints got back into the game. But I will say, listen to this. Aiden Hutchinson, this is from PFF. Aiden Hutchinson, he was 35.7 pass rush win rate versus the Saints, which was first among defenders in week 13. That's a minimum of 10 pass rushes. So that's pretty impressive. The defense obviously is not that great, but they do have some bright spots. And I never expected the Lions to win the Super Bowl this year. Honestly, I expected them to be maybe 9-8 this year. I expected the team to be maybe 7-10 last year. And if they had a winning record this year, I would have been happy, just with the expectations of how we've become conditioned to being a Lions fan. So the fact that they're 9-3 is so cool. It's so great. Yeah, maybe there's talk that we should fire Aaron Glenn. And I'm not really sure. I don't know if you fire somebody in the middle of the season like that, especially somebody who I think the organization cares about, and I think he's a good person. You don't want to do him dirty. It's some of the defensive lapses have been a bit glaring, but when you're sitting at 9-3 and like the expectations for what the franchise franchise have been. You don't want to go messing with something like that just by firing somebody midseason. They do have to mix it up. If he's able to learn, that's the best case scenario. If he can learn and do some stunts and do some, more blitzing. I think they blitzed the Saints more yesterday, so that was good to see. But it's been a bit disheartening at times to watch the defense because the offense has for the most part done pretty well.
Real quick, breaking news here. It is almost it's 10:50 right now, Monday night, and it looks like Trevor Lawrence has just suffered a pretty bad injury to the point where he's taking his helmet off, slamming it down. It looks like a right leg injury, maybe lower leg, knee. He's probably going to leave the game here. If you're an athlete, you know right away like, hey, this isn't right. Usually that initial reaction tells you what you need to know as far as how serious it's going to be. So right now it's not looking good for Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, that's awful. Yeah, I didn't see it. That's terrible to hear. I think I'm seeing the replay right here. That's awful to hear. So yeah, that's a bummer, Dave. Ugh, another injury, and you just hate seeing that. So, but to the Lions game, Taysom Hill was in there, and every time he was in, the crowd was going wild, and they were cheering for him. And then every time Derek Carr would go back in, they would boo. And that's not a good sign. If you're Derek Carr who just got here, it's your first year over there. And the crowd would rather see Taysom Hill in there, who I put into my fantasy league. He gave me about 15 points. McBride, who I also have, would have given me about 23. So I was a little bummed, but still kind of want to ride that Taysom Hill train, just see where it took me. And so that was really funny to see. Dave, there was a TD high in there, wasn't there? That didn't help anyone. A TD high.
I believe there was only like one, possibly two TD Haas from week 13 so far. And that was Harrison Bryant, who was
Well,
like, who the fuck is
there's
Harrison Bryant?
Jimmy Graham.
Jimmy Graham's not a TD Ha because was Derek Carr the one that threw him the pass or was it Taysom Hill?
It was Derek Carr.
So it's not a TD Ha because people would start Derek Carr. But we did have one true TD Ha because I'm almost positive no one's starting Joe Flacco, right? Except Joe Flacco's mom.
Mm-hmm.
He threw a touchdown pass to tight end Harrison Bryant. And I was like thinking, who is this guy? Never honestly, like, haven't heard of this guy, don't know this guy. Maybe he's been in the league for a while, but I noticed he had actually pretty decent stat line. And Flacco played pretty good if you think about it. He's been out of the NFL for a handful of years, and for him to come back and do all right with the Browns, I mean, that was kind of promising.
So maybe isn't that the solution, right? Instead of these quarterbacks leaving the league, they just stay in it longer, and then we have more good quarterbacks still in the league. Then maybe that's how we solve it. I'm not really sure, but hey, one thing before we wrap this up with the Lions and the Saints, I do want to say that the Lions swept the NFC South, which is really cool. I don't know if that really means anything, but to beat an entire division in football, I don't know. That's probably something the Lions probably have never done. So very cool to hear. Dave, what is there a number like 1B that you want to get to? Maybe I had 1A. Isn't there a 1B?
There is a 1B, and we have talked before about any given Sunday. And so besides the Chiefs losing, which was kind of a surprise, another team lost to a team that really had no business winning anything, and that's the Steelers losing to the Cardinals. So I do understand that was kind of a unique game situation with unique challenges, with weather delays and poor weather and then injuries. The Steelers did lose Kenny Pickett, and but they lost to the Cardinals, and they didn't just lose to the Cardinals. Like, they got beat pretty bad. It was a final score of 24-10. So week after they had their breakthrough 400-yard offensive performance, they put up 10 points against the Cardinals, which one of the worst defenses in the league on the year. That's something that makes you think, well, just when you think you have the NFL figured out, you realize you don't know anything. So any given Sunday, candidate Pittsburgh losing to the Cardinals. That's crazy.
Well, that might have been a James Conner homecoming game, right? He probably wanted to prove something. He's got a little extra motivation, and he fires that team up. And the Cardinals have been playing pretty well. I mean, with Kyler Murray now back in the offense, and they're not, he's a pretty good quarterback there.
Hey, real quick, dude, like fucking Jake Browning, 28 fantasy points, possibly gonna lead the the Bengals to a win against the Jags here, I mean, that would be huge. Like reckless speculation. Jake Browning, becomes the starting quarterback.
Okay,
And
I haven't seen it yet. I paused it because I want to watch the end of the game. If you haven't already, then please do like and subscribe. We appreciate all of you, all your 10s and 20s of our fans. And we'll see y'all next time on the Four Birdies podcast. Adios. Sayonara.
good luck editing that